Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of this Healthy Life podcast. I'm very excited for my guest today. I have Vinny Crispino, and he has an amazing story that he was formerly an athlete and broke his back and had severe injuries and has healed himself and is here to share his wisdom and ways that you can help you if you're suffering from chronic illness. So Vinny, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you. We haven't had this topic on the podcast yet, so this is going to be really refreshing and really insightful for people listening out there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here, and knowing that I'm the first to introduce pain and have these discussions about the nervous system to your audience. I'm honored to be that person for you. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to start sharing a little bit about your story and what led you down this path of, unfortunately knowing pain so well and being able to overcome it.
Yeah, it's a deep knowing. So let's go back to the start, and I'll give you the short version here. So I was a Division I, 8-time All-American collegiate athlete. I was a really competent and capable swimmer. And that led to a lot of arrogance, and that arrogance led to me thinking I can do any water sport and master it. So I picked up surfing, went out on a day where the waves were way, I was a better swimmer than I was a surfer. I wiped out in the ocean. On the first wave that I caught, my lower back hit a rock. And it was just a life-changing injury from there. So I broke my back because that's what absorbed the impact of that fall. And what happened from there was a T12 fracture. So I fractured one of the vertebrae, multiple herniations. The blunt force trauma of the impact created such significant nerve damage that my spine shifted 21 degrees to the left.
Wow.
So it was going from never having really an experience with an injury and always being able to push your body and it never asking you to slow down, the body never pushing back. You just get faster and stronger and faster and stronger. And then now I can't even stand up for more than a few minutes without wanting to cry.
Wow.
And, my story from that point of breaking my back is probably like so many people's stories if they're dealing with chronic issues, right? Which is like, what do you do when you have an issue? You go start looking at the experts and the doctors, and you start subjecting yourself to Western medicine. And sometimes things can kind of be helpful. Maybe sometimes you find that right concoction of therapies and modalities, but to sustain that and to maintain results long-term, this is where I struggled. And, I spent years going from one therapy to the next, never really understanding it, not understanding that I need to learn how to participate in my own rescue and what the hell that even means. I eventually got so fed up with just feeling like I was in this revolving door system of therapy, and people were only concerned about managing the pain, not helping me get rid of it. It was just management. It was a game of management, and I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I put myself back through school. I became certified personal trainer. I studied at NASM, Stanford School of Medicine, their exercise physiology short course program, and I have acquired numerous certifications and credentials across such a wide spectrum of movement, and everything pointed back towards, how the hell do you feel better when you don't feel good? Yeah. What are the mechanisms that somebody needs to really understand? You don't need to be an expert, but what are the mechanisms with your own body that you need to understand so you can heal and you can thrive and you can get back to doing the things that you love doing and want to do? So this, breaking my back, it turned out to be the best thing that happened to me, because it launched me in this direction that not only helped save my life, but it has given life back to thousands and thousands of people all over the world. So it's been a blessing and a curse, more of a blessing than a curse.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel the same way with I got Lyme disease in 2012. And again, it was like a crippling, horrible thing that I went through. And thankfully I'm in remission now, but so many people struggle with that. But I also kind of think of it as like a blessing and a curse. Like it's a blessing because it's like prompted me to learn so much about health and be like so involved in this space. And I actually feel like I'm so much healthier now than I was before then, even though I wasn't sick back then. But at the same time, it's a curse because it's like, I'm very similar to what you went through. It's like painful, horrible. Like you don't know if you're going to make it. Like it's like really, really just changes your whole life course. So I love hearing stories where someone's kind of, thrown these adverse horrible situations and, you know, able to recover from it. And then not only that, but also help people that are suffering from it as well. So kudos for you to doing that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about pain a little bit. So, you know, most people think, oh, pain's this physical thing. And like you said, you kind of just have to manage it. But there's also different components to pain, right? So there's like the neurological issues, because you mentioned like you had a lot of nerve damage. And then obviously, of course, the mental toll as well of like dealing and living with pain every day. So can you speak a little bit about those aspects of pain as well?
Yeah. So to be very fair to people listening to this, you know, when I was going through the peak of my injury, if you were to tell me that half of my problem had to do with my mindset and my relationship with pain and how I'm processing it, how I coach and parent myself and my coping mechanisms, if you would have told me that, I would have just walked away from the conversation. Because I remember my introduction with pain was physical. I remember seeing my broken back on a light up board in the emergency room, and to me it was mechanical. I, in my wildest dreams, never even factored or considered that it also had to do, a significant part of my healing had to do with mentality. So for us to cover pain, we have to acknowledge the two very real buckets that exist. The first bucket is mechanical, it's physiological. What are the mechanical issues that are giving rise to why pain is existing in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And the second bucket, not that it's second in the order of it, these two simultaneously fuel themselves. But the second bucket is your body is not detached from you as a human being. You are a human being and you will experience pain. So, how you experience pain, your framework, your mental capacity, and your life experiences all set the stage for how you're actually going to navigate and move through whatever painful experience it is that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are going to effectively help somebody move past this, we're not going to do it by just focusing on physical, and we're not going to do it by focusing on just mental. We have to
Mm-hmm.
have both of these conversations and both of these therapeutic approaches
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously. Otherwise, we have what? At most, a 50% chance of recovery, at
Yep. Yep. If
most,
you're
a
not addressing both
50% chance
parts
of
of it.
healing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
So what did you find in your own journey that, you know, you said you did a lot of things with Western medicine, which I feel like is great for like emergency situations, but not great for chronic issues, right? Like, I mean, through my own illness, like Western medicine had no idea what they were doing. It wasn't until I went to like a more integrative approach and really kind of even dealt with like the mind body healing, even in that regard too, that I really started to make shifts. So in your own healing journey, once you kind of realize like, hey, Western medicine is just trying to give me drugs or, you know, do things that are just band-aiding what's really going on, what did you find kind of was like the winning ticket for you that helps you feel better and regain your mobility and strength again?
Yeah, so, great. I love what you just said. Western medicine for me, there's a time and a place for it. If I get into a car accident and there's impact trauma, it's probably a really good time to go find a Western medicine practitioner
Absolutely.
and get the immediate help that you need.
Absolutely.
But chronic, long-term issues, and and rightfully so, everybody that I was paying was focusing on my back. That's what I broke. That's what hurt. That's where the raging, stabbing pain was. So, Western medicine did its job in that I wasn't going to see a back pain specialist to help me holistically. They were there because they were a specialist in this one area
One
of the
little
body,
area. Yep.
one little area. And sometimes that's very appropriate and sometimes that's so needed. But in my case, it was playing whack a mole for years. And nothing really changed until somebody took a photo of me. And this was a practitioner who didn't believe in chasing pain. He didn't believe that the area that hurt is where the problem was,
Mm.
which was my experience with Western medicine, right? Even MRIs, everybody's zooming in on the area that hurt. And here was this individual who said, we're not going to zoom in. Let's take a step back. Let's take a photo of your body. Go into this position, stand up, bend forward, try and squat. And we took little snapshots of my body trying to do these. And it was the first time, and it was so brilliant looking back on it. that such a cheap piece of technology, a phone and a photo, was actually the most diagnostic thing that I'd been through in years.
After all these like expensive scans
Oh
and
my gosh,
all the appointments, I can just imagine what you had to go through to, once you
thousands,
did that. Yeah.
thousands of dollars in years spent. And why it was so helpful, because it was the first time that I got to step outside of the problem and objectively look at, oh, what's up with my upper body position? Why is my left knee twisted out? Why is my right foot collapsing? Why am I not putting any weight on my left leg? Why is my left shoulder higher? What the hell is going on with my entire body? It was the
Yeah.
first time in my back-breaking injury that I actually looked at the body as a whole. And it was like this moment of duality. It was like light bulb moments of, oh my God, I've been missing this for years. And also a lot of anger and frustration. Why was none of this stuff a conversation? And to make this even more real, again, I was chasing back pain for years and got nowhere. If anything, the fractures healed and my herniations healed. And I was still in debilitating pain. And it wasn't until somebody came up to me and said, we got to fix your left knee. And I'm like, dude, come on.
You're like, what are you talking about? It's my back.
I've never once had a problem with my left knee, but it was so twisted, which
Hmm.
because of how I healed, because of how your body compensates, I was incapable of really putting weight on my left leg. So if I'm a human being that's predominantly putting most of my weight on my right leg, I'm walking with a limp, thousands of steps a day, my lower back was under this shearing tug-of-war force every single step.
Wow.
And not one person ever looked at this as a holistic full body issue. And so this is where I start. Whenever anybody comes to me, I know it's important to hear stories. I want to hear your story. And let's put the story to the side and take a step back and look at you as a human being. What about the body around this problem? How is that thing functioning? And when we start to take a step back, we can just ask so many new, incredible questions that lead to new, incredible answers. And that's what was
Yeah.
missing for me for years.
And what was that time span from the time that you broke your back to the time that you worked with this practitioner and started kind of looking at your body more holistically? How long did that take to get there?
5 of the longest years of
Wow.
my life.
Wow. And not
Oh
a
my
single
God.
person looked at anything other than just zooming in on your back in those 5 years.
No. And
Unbelievable.
even, it made sense when I first started to dip into the world of movement patterns and biomechanics that, oh, this is actually a Vinny problem. It's not a lower back problem. This is who I am as a human being and how I'm actually moving and organizing that movement. Even then, when I would bring this new information back into the Western world, complete dismissal, complete minimization, complete gaslighting. Nope, the knee has no impact over the lower back. The hip has nothing to do with the lower back. And this is why my business exists, is to actually bring this information into the public space so we can stop playing whack-a-mole, if that's
Yep.
what you want to do.
Absolutely. So once you kind of had this revelation and this shift of like kind of approaching from a more whole body approach, how quickly did you start to feel better or have improvement in your back pain and kind of just overall pain level?
Well, this is, I felt an immediate change. And when I say that, I mean, within the first week, I was 5% better.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
for a guy who's living life at the edge of not wanting to live life, 5% is a
Big
godsend.
deal. Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that I could just feel 5% better, that was all the hope I needed. From that point, it took me about 5 to 6 years to actually get better, because now we get into the other half of the conversation. I had the physical tools. The same exercises that did not work for me for years were the same exercises that worked for me once I understood how big my mindset had to do with this. So when I finally came across this information, 2 things were true. The first one was, oh, this is very valuable. And the second one was, I had zero coping mechanisms. I had zero ability to be disciplined. My ability to understand how to prioritize self-care, set boundaries around my needs and how to prioritize myself, how to say no to other the path of healing, right? The stuff that was non-physical. This is why it took so freaking long for this process to work, because I was fighting myself for another half of a decade and nothing meaningfully changed. Nothing meaningfully changed until my mindset changed. And
Yeah.
that was a really hard pill to swallow.
And so what kind of work did you do for that mindset shift? Was it just you kind of having like a, moment where you realized that that was important, or did you have supportive therapies that were helping kind of guide you and leading you into knowing that this was an important part of your healing path as well?
All of the above. It was a combination.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, so I'll give you an example. The first crucial moment, this was the pivot point in my life. So obviously broken back, doing an exercise like bridges, lying on the ground, doing like hip thrusts, nightmare.
Yeah.
Yet they were prescribed to me in this new therapy style. Hey, Vin, we got to get both hips to work together. The hips and the pelvis and the spine, it all needs to understand how to work as a team. Logically, that made sense. Emotionally and physically, every bridge was like an electrical storm of pain. And every day I would do bridges, and every
Mm-hmm.
day I would hate bridges, and every day I would resist it. And so one morning, I'm doing my god awful dreaded bridges again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling pain like I always do. My son comes up to me and he's going through something, but like I still need to do my work. So I'm listening to him while doing bridges. And halfway through my conversation with him, I'm realizing bridges don't hurt.
Hmm.
What is going on right now? And I told him, hold on a second, hold on. And then I focused back on my body, and then I felt pain again.
Hmm.
And then I focused on him, and I wasn't bracing and tucking and coring and hold. I wasn't doing all these weird little movement cues. I wasn't fixating on what I couldn't do. I wasn't predicting that pain would hurt. I was actually shifting my attention on something else, and I had a completely radically different experience with my
Wow.
body. What the hell is that about?
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically, nothing changed in that exercise. I
Yeah.
didn't change the height. I didn't change the intensity. I changed what I was placing focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that moment that I realized I did not actually have the mental tools and the psychological framework to actually work with my nervous system. I only knew how to fixate on things and bring anxiety to them, bring tension. Every time I
Just
moved,
like kind of
it
like
was like
negative
I was,
focus on things, right?
yeah.
Like
Oh my
associated
gosh,
with that.
it was not only was it negative focus, but it was I was feeling the thing that took my life away.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. It's
I
like you were
wasn't just,
reliving it like every time you were doing these movements.
oh my gosh, every single motion was a reminder of how crippled I was. Every single bridge was just confirming and reinforcing I'm broken.
Yeah.
No wonder why I didn't get anywhere for years.
Mm.
I hated my body and I hated the way I felt. And self-care, the work that I now do, my intention is to show my nervous system that movement safe again. My intention is to show myself that I can feel at home in my body. And that's what I teach people, is how to approach things gentle and simple and calming and supportive and inviting. But before that, my intention was to fix my problem. My intention was to power through with brute force and to use this masculine energy to just force myself to feel
Like,
better.
teach your body to do it again kind of vibe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
wonder why I didn't get better for years, because of
Mm-hmm.
how I was approaching my nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's why nothing meaningfully changed for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit. So, now that you've healed yourself, are you in a good place now? Like, do you feel like you've got like most of your life back, and you're managing your pain both with all your tools that you have, or how are you feeling these days?
I am now an ultra marathon runner running 50 plus
Wow,
mile
that's
races
awesome.
because I want
Awesome.
to.
Yeah, that's
I just ran
amazing.
up Mount Whitney a couple weeks ago to see if I could.
Yeah.
So I I am free from the prison that once was. My relationship with pain and discomfort, and don't get me wrong, when you train for ultra marathons and you do 70, 80, 90 to 100 miles of running a week,
That's
those
crazy.
miles all don't feel great,
No.
but
But they wouldn't feel great in a perfectly healthy person either, right?
no, it's a lot of stress and impact, but
Yeah.
I have the ability to coach and navigate and parent myself and use the tools, the physical and the mental tools simultaneously to provide the level of care that I need to
Hmm.
sustain this long term.
Yep.
I feel almost disingenuous talking about my injury because that feels like an entirely different person ago. It feels made up because the life that I have now is so starkly different. It's like I'm talking about somebody else's experience. That's how
Hmm.
different things are for me.
I know exactly what you
And
feel like
so that's
because
why,
yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, please.
I was just gonna say that really resonates with me too, because I do feel like that with like Lyme, right? It's like when I was sick and Lyme, and it was like that's all you could think about was like your symptoms and how you feel and like how much pain you're in and how sick you are, and like you said, like how broken you are and how you hate your body. And it's like I feel like I agree. Like I don't really talk about Lyme too much anymore because I don't like to rehash all my symptoms and like go back to that place because it feels just dark and kind of scary. But I know that it's important to help people. But I also just feel I'm like that just feels like it was so long ago, and I'm like such a different person now and have such a different relationship with my body and my mind that it's like I know exactly what you're saying. It just really resonated with me.
Yeah, talking about it, doesn't it bring you back?
Yeah, it's like sometimes you're just like I can't talk about it so much. I can't go there because it's just like rehashes everything, and I'm like I just don't want to talk about it anymore. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's the nervous system remembering, and I hope if somebody pulls one thing from this conversation today, I want it to be the power of your nervous system. It can work against us or it can work for us. I think many people have heard of, if you've ever taken a introductory psychology course at all, one of the first things that you're taught is something called classic conditioning. And I'm going to use the famous Russian psychologist Ivan Pavlov. Are you familiar with the dog experiment and the
Mhm. Mhm.
salivation? Yeah, okay. So
Yep.
just for people who don't know, he would bring his dogs food and they would start to salivate. And every time the psychologist brought his dogs food, he would ring a bell. And eventually, he didn't bring them food, he just rang the bell and they would still salivate. So that's called classic conditioning, where your physiology responds to a stimulation, right? It remembers, it learns something.
Yep.
What everybody with chronic conditions needs to understand is that there is the issue, and then there's how your body learns and remembers, how it's being conditioned. So let me make this real. Somebody with back pain, every time they bend forward, it hurts.
Mhm.
And when you live in that world for days, weeks, months, years, maybe like me, like decades, every time you bend forward, you are conditioning yourself that that movement pattern hurts. Even long after the actual injury heals, bending forward can still hurt, not because the mechanical problem still exists, but because you've trained your body that this motion hurts. Your body remembers and your nervous system remembers. And this is one of the first steps that I teach people in my program, which is, again, kind of what I alluded to. It's like how to make movement feel safe again. Because when you have such experience of your body being one way, you're a great example of breaking that conditioning.
Mhm.
But even talking about it, it brings us back to
Yep.
those symptoms can manifest and feel very real, yet it's just what your nervous system
Is
remembers.
remembering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's wild to think that part of it has to do with emotions and
mhm.
memory.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's like a critical piece of healing from anything, whether it's chronic illness or physical injury or, any sort of like mental health issue as well, right? It's just kind of like resetting yourself so you're not so triggered or, reliving it every time you think about it or talk about it. So super important.
And I think one of the probably two of the biggest questions that are missing from people who are either currently suffering from Lyme, have had experience with it, or what insert any other chronic disease or illness. I Question number one, what does my nervous system have to do with this? How is it responding to this, right? So I guess that's two questions. And the third one is, how can I learn the tools to regulate my nervous system? How can I calm down the activity? And if you can ask those questions, no matter where you're at in your healing journey, those questions will lead to tools to help you better manage this roller coaster sometimes that it can feel like to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, super important. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your company that you started, helping
Mhm.
people with pain management. So can you share a little bit of insight of how you work with patients and how you kind of help people that are on their journey and what sorts of patients you mostly work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run an online therapy business
Mm-hmm.
because people need to learn the tools that they need, and they need to learn how to do them in their home because that's where they're going to be doing their therapy anyways every day. So I teach them directly from home. I've got an online program. Every single person goes through the same program, but no two people go through it the same way because your nervous system is different than somebody else's. You could have the same problem as somebody else, but you might respond to that lower, calming, down regulating movements, the gentle stuff. Somebody else might need a little bit more energy, a little bit more
Yeah.
stimulus. So we're all different and we're all going to go through this program differently. And based on the feedback that you give it, it automatically adjusts and tailors the exercises that your body best responds to. So I've got this online program. We have over 10,000 members in it.
Wow.
And the amount of healing and the testimonials and the stories that are coming out of this, I think if we can just keep this up in 5 years, this is
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be one of the first recommended treatment options for people with neuromuscular dysfunction and movement impairments. It's all on, like I said, it's all online based, it's video based, it's on demand. You go at your pace. And I really pride myself on, I truly believe this is the best program out there for resolving muscle imbalances and chronic pain type scenarios. This is the program that I needed when I was going through the peak of my injury. So every road, every bump is explained, every left turn is explained, right turn, every dead end is explained. If something works, this is why it's working. If it doesn't work, this is why it's working. I try to provide people with so much comprehensive and thorough understanding that this program takes a minimum of 1 year to go through, a
Wow.
minimum. So it's beefy, it's robust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what's the most common sort of like ailments or injuries that people are coming to you with that are using the program? Is it kind of a mixed bag, or are there certain people that is consistently like a lot of the same sort of, injury or body area that's injured?
Yeah, it is a mixed bag. I think just given my story and how I share my story, I draw the most amount of people with back pain and hip pain. Those seem to be the two most common occurrences. And when I say common, I'm talking about 80 to 85% of the people who join my program have some kind of hip or low back pain. But really, this is for people with any kind of bodily pain, even if it's not mechanical, even if it's not muscular based. You have a nervous system, and learning how to navigate that and train it and treat it and heal it is what's going to be key. So you can have shoulder issues, neck issues, feet, ankles, knees, whatever it is. You improving the how your entire body moves is only going to help wherever you're at physically. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of just meets you where you're at with whatever you've got going on, essentially. So,
Yeah, and the biggest thing about my program is if you join with back pain, you're not going to go see a back pain protocol. If you join with hip pain, you're not going to go see a hip pain protocol. That's Western medicine. You are going to see a program that restores holistically your body's capacity to move.
Yep.
And that's why people feel a little lost, because they're like, I'm here for back pain. Where are the back exercises?
Yeah, they're like, why are we doing this? You're like,
Yeah.
Just wait, it'll work.
I don't even know what a back is, because in order to change the back, we've got to use the ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, and shoulders.
Yeah.
So everything is about getting your entire system to optimize and function better. And it's this holistic approach that completely turned around the course of my life and changed it. And I've seen it work for thousands and thousands of people. It's beautiful.
That's amazing. And then, so do you have any support for people, say someone doesn't have like a major chronic illness or major pain in an area, but, wants to be like overall just healthier, kind of manage like things that might be leading to future chronic conditions or bad posture? Like, I know I'm terrible, like sitting at my computer. I have like the round back that I'm like trying to be like more conscious of that and work on that, but I like haven't been able to find anything that actually works for that. So do you have any things around that? People that may not be kind of at the extreme that you were at, or, severe pain, but want to stay ahead of it, or want to just kind of tweak a few things that might be future problems for them?
The worst part about calling my business Pain Academy and having this traumatic story break my back is people think they need a traumatic story or need to be in pain to do this.
Yep.
Step one is getting out of pain, which is not easy, but it's simple when you have a structured strategy. Step two, which is really optimizing and improving your body so you can maintain feeling good long, that's what my program's about. So you don't need to have some huge story. All you have to do is say, oh, I think my body needs a little bit of attention. I'd like to work on it. And this program could be great for you. One of the biggest things, aside from the nervous system questions that I asked at the start, one of the biggest questions that I was not asking was, how long can I stay out of pain for? Every approach that I was looking for was, how can I get out of pain? You can actually do that fairly simplistically in just a few positions, like lying on your back with your legs over a couch or a chair. For most people, that's going to get them out of pain because it's a position of high support and it allows your nervous system to relax. But staying out of pain, that is where the real value in this approach is. And the only way you stay out of pain is when you learn how to take care of your body, when you start playing the long game. So anybody who's feeling uncomfortable now, I know you want to get out of pain, but the real game that we're playing is long-term relief, not just let's do sprints.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes total sense. Yeah, it's like, and plus this is a tool that you learn and you use, and you have this tool for the rest of your life. So say like you do have an injury or you do get in an accident or something, you have this tool to kind of come back to that you're already familiar with. So hopefully that gets you out of that pain and suffering a little bit sooner, right? Since you've got this in your toolbox.
Yeah. And I think so, acquiring the tools, nobody can take that information from you. This is truly active therapy in which you are having to partake an active process in it. And when you're active, so the opposite is passive. It's like you bringing your body to somebody, like a stretch lab and a trainer stretching you. That can be nice. But if you don't learn those tools yourself, you can never administer treatment yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you learning these tools is your most surefire way of not only maintaining these results long term, but the biggest thing, and this isn't even on people's radar, I'll use myself as an example. I've hated running my entire life. Before I actually became an ultramarathon runner a few years ago, the last time I ran was for 6th grade PE class.
I hate
running
too.
Sucks. Things are bouncing. It's freaking hard. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. But I'm now an ultramarathon runner that gets to travel the world to go experience things in ways that I've never experienced. What I'm really trying to say is, when you learn how to take care of your body, you will meet versions of yourself that you don't even know exist right now. Like when I was in pain, I just wanted to get out of pain. Never in my wildest dreams did I have any fantasy about going to Patagonia and running in the Patagonia National Park to do an ultramarathon.
Wow.
But I've met this version of myself because these tools equal longevity. And when you can improve your longevity, you can start saying yes to things that right now you can't even think of saying yes to. You just want to like survive another day. You just want to be able to do like your dishes without needing to
Yeah.
take hours of a break.
Yeah.
So underneath the chronic pain, underneath the tools and the results, what this is really about is you trying to meet as the versions of yourself that you don't even know exist. And like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
human condition. And that is
Yeah.
my favorite part of this process, is watching people just do radical stuff. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome, Vinny. This has been so great. I really hope that this helps people out there on their journey. If people want to
Me
find out
too.
more about your program and follow you on Instagram, how can they find you?
Yeah. So Instagram, easy, just at Pain Academy. And if you want to go to my website and get started, you can go to painacademy.net. You can either get a free routine from me, because I understand the skepticism out there. I wouldn't have believed me either. That's why I want to earn your attention. Just go try these movements, go do a free routine for me, or get like a really simple 5-day program, dip your toes in the water. And I want your nervous system to decide what actually happens by doing this kind of methodology. It's cool.
Amazing. Awesome. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and everything that's helped you along the way. And hopefully, this helps a lot of people listening out there as well.
I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.